Hey guys, here we are, the Quiggin Out MMA Podcast, episode 58. And it's not his age, and he'll make that joke later. I've got a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, an amazing person, and one half of the Sapateiro 30 Masters title, which you called what? The old man?
old man tournament or old man match or whatever the hell it's called. Yeah,
The
old
one, the
man
only
belt.
Kevin Gallagher. How you doing, sir?
I'm good, brother. How are you, my man?
Not too bad. I didn't want to call you professor. I wanted to try and keep this light.
I always get creeped out when people put so much prestige in front of my name. It's like, bro, I'm Kevin.
I'm just Kevin.
Coach is fine, but we don't have to call me professor, doctor, sensei, sufu, whatever. We're fine.
So I'll just jump into it. I mean, you've got your own school now. We're going on about a year and a half.
It was a year.
Yeah.
It was a year. Memorial Day or whatever. Yeah, Memorial Day. Yeah.
Fantastic. So talk about what it's been like to go from Kevin, the black belt in the dojo, or Coach Kevin in the dojo, to running the school, and now what it's meant to you to have this going for a year. Because I also know something else, and I'll bring that up here in a minute.
I like you do your research. I love that shit. I like aha moments. It's my favorite part of our podcast. Man, like the only thing I can think of is blessed, and I hate to use that cliche, but it really is the best way to describe it. I mean, over the course of the last 12 years of my life, I have struggled, I have toiled, I have done everything you could possibly imagine to hustle my way to be a professional jiu-jitsu athlete, teaching private lessons, making myself believe the dream. When I was competing at a relatively high level, there was no such thing as, WNL and all the amazing shit that's going on now. Not that I would have ever had the fucking skill to get there. I might have been close at a few times, but I'm just old. maybe if I had got into it when I was 25 instead of 35. But, when I was doing shit, it was really a weird kind of manic kind of motion that I put into my brain. But I knew in my mind that I was paying my dues. And doing things the right way and building together, not just someone that is a black belt, but someone that has the cuts or the time in on the chops that worked his butt off to go on the competition circuit and understands fluently what it takes to really succeed as a competitor and as someone that has taught private lessons to freaking, 9-to-5ers and guys that just want to come in and get a little fun on the mats. I intimately know all aspects of what it takes to succeed as a gym owner. So when I'm to the point now where after all of this hard work and bullshit and like fooling myself and working in bars till 6 o'clock in the fucking morning and getting up and training the next day and like just generally hating my life along the way, to suddenly getting to a point where I see what all the hard work is for. It's blessed. It's just the only word I can think of to describe it.
Listen, if it works for Max Holloway, it can work for the rest of us. So I'm throwing this in early. Like, it's super exciting because I've known you for a while, and seeing when a black belt opens their own school, there's a process, and being in the Gracie family, there's really a process of having to go up the chain and kind of get that blessing. So can you kind of talk about what that's like? How that conversation went?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, we at the Gracie Academy of Gracie Tampa, Rob Kahn, black belt affiliate, we go back to Hoist. We run that Hoist Gracie format. It's a little bit different than other martial arts academy. Not saying, I don't ever like to go down that road lineage. Well, my jiu-jitsu is better than your fucking jiu-jitsu. It's jiu-jitsu. You know what I mean? Like, I don't ever like to talk shit like that. But we have our own style and form that, is still jiu-jitsu, but it comes from Hoist Gracie. So it's just a different philosophy. The belts are a little bit different. The black belt is, we get our white stripe, and then we go on to, the colored belt, the red bar. We're a little bit different than other academies after you get your black belt. But first of all, it's amazing to have all of the successful gym owners that I have at my disposal, and the successful, jiu-jitsu competitors that I can, I could call Matt Arroyo anytime I want. Be like, hey Matt, dude, like what's going on? Robbie Denarfio, hey bro, like I need some help with this and this. Bamboo, hey man, Tony Way, hey dude, and they're all just like, yeah, dude, whatever, come on out. This is what you need to do. Like, Matt Arroyo, essentially, when I opened my gym up, told me exactly what to do to succeed. He gave me the right marketing company to go to. He told me this, and this. He told me, okay, this is the guy you need to do to get to do your Google ads. This is the website company you need to use. These are the things you should do. These are the things you shouldn't do, because I've done all of them and failed and succeeded. And I've already had my trial and error, and I'm going to tell you exactly what to do. And, it's a process. Obviously I live in South Tampa, and, there's only so many black belts in the Gracie network that can open gyms. We're getting to the point now where there's so many of them.
Yeah.
But, it was generally agreed upon that, like, Kevin deserves his own gym. He has put the time in, he's the work, and it's very cool to see everyone that is there to help me. And, one thing I want to add to that, and this, I'm going to figure out a way to throw this in there one way or another. I was thinking about writing an article about it. There's
Don't
something
worry.
to be said.
Everybody still needs to read it if he says it.
No one will fucking read it anyway. Like my mom and maybe like 2 of my students didn't want to kiss my ass, but I don't even think you read the fucking
Coach,
things.
I read your article. Really
Yeah,
great.
right. Yeah, it's good, real good. There's something to be said about good karma. There's something to be said about not being a piece of shit. And I really believe that in life, when you do things correctly, sometimes you might get the sword in the shit stick on some occasions. Sometimes people might turn out to be assholes and fuck you over. But like when you do things right and you build that karmic envelope around yourself and you build good relationships with people, it pays off for you in the long run. And like, my entire life and my entire career, I've done my best to be the dude that people say, you know what, man, Kevin Gallagher is a straight shooter. Kevin Gallagher is a really good person. Kevin Gallagher will do very good things. Therefore, people are willing to put their trust in me and willing to help me succeed along that way. And I think a lot of people kind of miss that boat sometimes.
Yeah, I think they expect it instead of earn it.
Yes.
And I
very good way to put that.
There's your article title.
There we go. All right, we're good now. Let me go write this thing.
We're just gonna co-write this thing.
Like, yeah, exactly. Right. Either it'll write itself. We'll go back and rewatch it and add a little foo-foo, a little fluff.
Oh man. See, I miss those days. Like when I started writing, like I'd get points where I would literally write and I'd black out. And I'd come to and the article would be there.
Dude, that's about how I go, whether it's self-induced through the dirty bong water in my corner. But like I just writing, and anyone that's ever written anything will tell you the hardest part about writing is just getting the fucking words on the paper. Like literally just like get the words out, and you just have to kind of go in that little state. And sometimes it's not. Sometimes the article you intended to write and
is
the article
not what you wrote.
It comes out towards the end. Editors love that shit, by the way, too. But you just have to get the words out, and then you go back and you go, okay, I don't know what I was thinking there. Let me whittle that away. Let me go fix this. Let me rearrange this in another order. And before you know it, you got 1,000 words and you're ready to go.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And that's the funniest part about it is that there were so many times where I'm like, I've got this great idea. I'm not telling anybody what it is.
Yeah.
Because if it comes out and they're like, wow, that was really good. I'm like, yep, that's what I intended to write.
Yeah, 100%.
And I feel like that's jiu-jitsu as well. Like there's times where you get in a scramble and you get on the top and you go, yeah, that's what I meant to do. Yeah.
I mean, fuck you. That's life, man. You know what I mean? That's literally like that. I can't tell you how many. Even the perfect example, we'll use my gym as an analogy. Like, when I first opened my gym, I had an image of what I wanted it to be from the beginning, and now, and there was a big picture type scenario of what I had in mind. But along the course of the traveling to the point where I am now, like there have been moments where like things that I intended to implement were just scrapped, and things that I had never even anticipated implementing were becoming more prevalent, and ideas are, that's going to work. and until I've gotten to the point at the end where, yes, I have a gym that functions in the manner in which I had 100% intended to, but it's very different from what I had.
From what you expected.
Whatever the imaginary vision in my brain of what I had it was. And now, I'm just getting to the point now where that vision is becoming tangible. And I say, okay, cool. This is what it's going to be.
I think it was when the wall went back and up. That was when.
Oh, you haven't been by yet either. You got to come by and see everything done. Now the wall's all the way up. We got the AC kicking in there, man. You got to stop by again.
I think I came in one other time.
Yeah, I think you have. Yeah,
maybe.
But it's. I mean, it's.
I think that's when we rolled.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That's right. So getting the pleasure to be able to roll with you.
Sure.
And it's so funny, like watching you teach. And I say funny because I've never seen anybody do this.
I get that from Rob. That's a Rob Kahn thing.
But I literally would go, what's he doing? Like I'd be looking to see what was going on. And I talk about that scramble because we literally got in a scramble and we got to a position and you looked at me and you went, what the fuck just happened? You're like, what were you trying to do? And I was like, that?
I'm bad about that shit. I'm bad about, like, everyone that's ever rolled with me will tell you that, like, it seems like I'm taking a nap sometimes when I'm rolling. And like I have no governor, and it's hard for me to shut down. So when things come to my brain, there's no disconnect. They just right out of my mouth.
No, it was hilarious. To me, that's a compliment. Yeah. Like if we roll together and you don't say anything afterwards, I'm like, well, that wasn't good.
I'm always a teacher, brother. It's ingrained in my DNA.
Well, absolutely. And you've been teaching now for a while. Like we said, having the school for a year, and I'm gonna jump back because I wanted to throw this in earlier, but someone told me, I'm not gonna say who, that you have your first black belt promotion coming up.
Yeah, I do. I don't know if I should say his name. I don't know, whatever. You get weird shit. But I'm giving a student of mine that came to me as a brown belt. I'm going to give him his black belt because it's well deserved.
Yeah.
And
he's somebody I've talked about on the show before.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
you guys can figure it out.
Yeah, he's a very good guy. Sometimes he doesn't like people mentioning things, but it's the first time I've ever given a black belt, and I'm very excited to do it. I had to run up the chain. I had to make sure it was okay with Rob and Matt and the whole thing, just to find out everything was cool with it. But he's well deserving. There's no question in my mind he's not a black belt. And he came to me as a brown belt with 3-4 stripes on his belt.
Yeah,
body year. Well, when I first opened, he's one of my first.
A year ago. It'll be a year and a half.
He teaches for me, and now I'm excited to give him. He was a black belt when he started, in my opinion. But like I didn't want to just give it to him when he walked in the door. I wanted to make sure that I knew him intimately and spent time with him. And now he at least has some of my systems in his brain, so I can technically say, yes, okay, this person is my black belt, and be cool with that. So.
Yeah, and I think, coming from somebody who rolled with him before and who's rolled with him after, it's like two different people.
And his game has changed a lot since he's come with me.
Completely changed. And like the intensity level is there that I didn't see before. And I feel like sometimes, just like I started doing the podcast because I got writer's block and COVID shut down. And, we were like, well, what are we going to do? You know what? I hate being on camera and I hate the sound of my own voice. Let's start a podcast.
Well, I'm the opposite. I love being on camera and I love the sound of my own voice. So, hey, let's start a podcast.
Yeah, I haven't figured that one out at all. But we start to lose that passion. We start to lose, and we don't realize we're losing it because it's a day to day. And I think for him, he got to the point where it was like routine versus fun. And I see that change in him, and I'm super excited for that ceremony. If I'm correct, it's in December.
Yeah, but
I will be there.
Yeah, so please come. You're always welcome. It'll be our end of the year belt ceremony, probably December 8th or 9th. We usually run it in that area. I'm gonna make sure I coordinate with Matt so we don't have overlap, because this is funny. I screwed up this year.
I heard about it.
Yeah, this is the first time I've missed a belt ceremony at Matt Arroyo's gym in 12 years. I bet, man. It was just weird. I was like, oh wow, I got all these people that I know. And that's another weird thing. Like, I've taught at Matt's school for probably 5-6 years now, and it's odd to me to kind of like let go a little bit, because they're not my babies anymore. I have my own babies I have to kind of care for now. And it took me a while to kind of be like, I can't give you my attention anymore, my energy anymore. I have to focus on my own babies now.
And it's like letting the kids go. It's just,
Yeah.
Okay. And then you
You'll
got
be
new
fine.
ones.
Yeah, and then you got
got to
new ones.
start all over.
A new one, right?
And I really, just the life of a gym owner, I've seen so many different aspects of, what it takes and what's good and what's bad. But you brought up a good point of, you were teaching for 5 or 6 years somewhere else. You're still within the same network. You're still around some of the same people, but you've definitely changed the people who have come in there. So, what was it like starting the school and having a bunch of new people and being like, I get to teach them everything I know?
Oh, it's fun. I mean, I still, just for clarification, I still teach. I mean, I'm still at South 4 days a week. I live right down the street. I teach. I have private lessons that guys I've taught private lessons to for 6 years.
Oh, wow.
That I still have. I fucking sold my soul away in private lessons to be able to open my gym. So I gotta keep teaching them fucking things. But I love my guys. I'm to the point now where I'm capped. I can't take anymore, which is another funny thing. Like, I don't know where all these fuckers are that want to take private lessons. All of a sudden, like, where the fuck were you fuckers at when I was like slaving away at a bar, like in a smoke-filled coffin at the Hub for fucking 3 years? You piece of shit.
Did you just bring up the Hub?
That's why I used to bartend at the Hub. That was I worked everywhere, but I was at the Hub for about 2 years, 3 years.
Oh, man.
That was the fucking worst. But to get back to the question, how was it teaching people from day one? It's in the beginning, it's challenging simply because nobody knows shit. So you have to really dumb down the level of jiu-jitsu that you want to teach. And there's a few people that are ready to hear some of the more advanced things that I know, and I've had to find that kind of, middle ground to where I keep it easy for the people that aren't ready to hear the good shit. Right. But I still don't want to lose my brain, because I have to focus on what's new and what's on the edge, because if you're not, you get left behind. Mm-hmm. And I'm very big on making sure I stay up with the current shit, just so that I can make sure that my gym is staying current. It's a big thing for me. Like, I'm on the competition circuit. I watch these guys. I want to make sure that my guys are prepared for what modern jiu-jitsu is, so I don't become a fucking dinosaur and stagnant. So, I throw little pieces in there of the craziness. But I'm getting to the point now, this last belt ceremony I just gave out 7 or 8 blue belts, I think it was. And, all of those guys were my day one people. And it's very, very gratifying and makes me feel very cool, like a proud papa, when I see these guys that, didn't know shit, that were fucking, grabbing fucking headlocks and giving people fucking noogies and dropping elbows and like flailing around like fish on the mats, that are actually now doing jiu-jitsu and doing things that I taught. Like, oh, wow, that's a fucking sweep that I taught him. He knows that. And, I don't ever like to, you're going to be ready for me to talk. You don't get to talk today. You know that, right?
I was just going to throw this in before you get too far ahead. I'm just going to give a shout out to Serge, because when we rolled, he hit me with a north-south choke, and no one ever hit me with that. So
that's a whole lot of man. That's a whole lot of man coming down with that north-south choke. So I guess what I was saying is that, like, I really enjoy watching my guys get better. And the cool part is now is like, we're in a different era of jiu-jitsu. Like, it used to be like, yeah, you can learn from anyone. And that was always like, yeah, whatever, fuck blue belts. You know what I'm talking about? Like, and you kind of laughed about that. But now truly, like, I learn from my students because there's such a ridiculous amount of outside resources for them to be able to just nerd out all night long, from YouTube to Instagram to any DVD instructional you can go buy. Like, and these guys go home and they are just completely involved and engulfed in what jiu-jitsu is. And like, I love that, because now they come to the gym and they're hitting new things, and I get to learn from watching them, and I'll watch them do something. They'll show me something. I'm like, yeah, that's super cool, but check this little tweak out to make it work a little bit better. And now I fix that for them. But I also in my mind, I'm like, oh well, I kind of get that. And
Yeah,
you know,
I'm gonna bury that one. Yeah.
yeah, I never like to think of myself as a person that is, you know, a creator of jujitsu. Like I am not anything different than any other fucking coach. I am just a conduit. Like jujitsu is its own thing, right? I am here to keep people motivated. I am here to give them a little rah-rah. You know, people love me because I'm some fucking crazy old fucking man. I'm a little bit fucking nutty. I have fun. I enjoy it. And, you know, I compete and go out there and get my girl riled up and shit. But all those things are what build the community to keep them involved in jiu-jitsu. I'm really just some dude that likes to talk shit. You know what I mean? I know a lot about jiu-jitsu. I've trained, I've dedicated my life to martial arts, but martial arts is not about me. Martial arts is the big picture. I'm just the one that keeps them coming to the gym.
Yeah. So on that note, you know, you've dedicated your life. Talk about like what got you started. You know, I know that's the quintessential, like, oh, how did you get started? But you just seem like you're gonna have a different story to bring because you don't
It's
hear
so
about it
funny,
as
man.
much.
It's so
So
funny. This is like if I had a fucking nickel for every time I've told this story on a fucking podcast, I wouldn't need my fucking gym anymore.
don't tell it.
No. I like to tell it because it's a very good story. So when I used to box for a long time. I boxed for years and years and years. That was my big predecessor to doing jiu-jitsu. I wanted to be a professional boxer for a while. I kind of had, you know, I did some amateur fights and I was around a bunch of professional boxers. And this is in a different era. You know, what professional MMA and amateur MMA that ain't what amateur boxing used to be back in the day. Amateur boxing was like fucking, like, you know, you just showed up to a gym, you signed your fucking dues, you hit a heavy bag. If you were lucky, a coach would come by and show you a few combinations. You'd get in there and spar. If you impress somebody, someone would give you a little bit of work, especially if you're the only fucking white guy in a fucking, you know what I mean? Like, no, and this is just facts are facts. You know what I mean? Like I used to train at a gym called Serrano's down at Ybor City for a long time. And I worked at another place called Legends I used to train at. Like, you know, you weren't getting any fucking play or any kind of attention unless you went out there and fucking proved it. You know, now it's different. These guys get coddled. They hold their hands. They fucking give them intro classes. They teach them how to fight. Like, no one did that shit when you were boxing. Anyway, I fought for a while. I enjoyed boxing. And I started getting concussion problems. That was also kind of a fuck up. You know, I was fucking never really took it seriously enough. You know, thought I did, but didn't really know what the fuck. Didn't know what it took and pretended and thought that I did.
Mm-hmm.
But I started getting some concussion problems. So I quit boxing. And then I kind of went through like a little listless period where just life was just kind of like spiraling down. You know, I started doing drugs and fucking drinking and partying and shit like that. I was working as a bartender and it just kind of got all fucking caught up in the whole swell, the whole thing, you know. I was teaching boxing at a gym in South Tampa that Matt Arroyo had his jiu-jitsu gym, and I used to laugh because I taught a cardio kickboxing class, and it was Joe Redner's gym. Joe Redner owns all the strip clubs, you know, Mons Venus and all that stuff, and a lot of his strippers would train there. So I used to laugh. I used to teach strippers how to box. That was my fucking. It wasn't a bad gig. But I always had this kind of. I know, right? It gets worse.
I can't even.
I hope none of my kids' parents are listening to this shit. During the process of all of that, you know, I always wanted to be a competitor. In my mind, I still thought I had it in me, and I did. It was as I was back probably 30 or so when I first started jiu-jitsu. Mm-hmm. So I went into Mass Gym, and I had the intentions of wanting to do MMA, and I was going to go do. You know, I had wrestled a little. I was a good wrestler in high school. You know, I was a 5th in the state my senior year. Like I was a good wrestler, right? So I wanted to wrestle in college. It never worked out. Blah. So I went in the Matt's gym. I was going to do some MMA. I started doing some jiu-jitsu and quickly realized that I just should not be getting hit in the head anymore. Like I was just having too many long-term blackout phases where I just kind of lost it was really a scary time in my life for a while. which I've since kind of through counseling and stuff, I've gotten over that, but it was a bad time. But I recognized I couldn't do jiu-jitsu anymore. Couldn't do MMA anymore, but I was already in the jiu-jitsu gym. So I said, fuck it. Let's just keep doing jiu-jitsu because you love it. And it kept me focused on something. So for about the first 6 years, really up until I got my brown belt. So 7 years, 6 years. So I got my brown belt about 5 years in. I got my black belt at 7.5, but because I won the worlds at brown twice, so they were like, they have to give it to me. You know what I mean? It was like, I'll be sandbagging.
I don't really have a choice at that point.
Yeah, it's like he won the worlds. You got to give him a fucking black belt. So about 5 years in is when I really took it seriously because I had some more. The first 5 years, it was just, I would compete here and there, but I was still bartending and living that lifestyle and partying and having fun and just doing jiu-jitsu to kind of keep my head right so I didn't go too far down the fucking hole. Because, jiu-jitsu is a powerful thing, and there's that drive that keeps you motivated. And people that have the proclivity to filter off into nothingness, when they give you something that focuses you on a goal, it keeps you from going down that darkness because you can't go too deep because you got to get up do jiu-jitsu the next day. So you kind of keep yourself on the level somewhat, but I never really took it that serious. And then I had some shit go down all of a sudden. Like all of a sudden out of the blue, I got a DUI. My dad died of cancer. I lost my long-term job. I was bartending and fine dining for 13 years at that point, making great money. I had a fucking 401k and fucking health benefits, and the restaurant shut down, so I was fucked. My girlfriend dumped me. Like it was just, dad died, lost my job, DUI, girlfriend dumped me. Everything just kind of went to shit. And I was really, really on the fucking edge. So I decided to myself, look, man, like I'm going to go down to Miami and I'm going to do the ADCC trials. I've never done a significant tournament in my life. And I decided at that moment that I was going to dedicate myself 100% and completely just engulf myself in jiu-jitsu. Not really because I gave a fuck about the ADCC trials, which I kind of did, but because I just wanted to lose myself in something so I didn't think about the decaying life of my life, the decaying nature of my life over that period of time.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I busted my ass and I ended up going down and winning third in the ADCC trials that year.
First time.
That's a brown belt. So, and I lost. It was so fucking. I lost in double overtime or in overtime. This guy Charlie Hoonan, who's a really fucking good brown belt at the time from ATT. It was weird. It's in Miami. I was going against the ATT guy, and Laborio was literally sitting at the fucking scorer tables. And imagine that I lost the ref's decision. But whatever. That no hard feelings. Like I still think about it every fucking day. But who knows? I still would have had to win in the finals. But I was on a good run now. I'm a good tournament guy. I get on a run, and I do well. Anyway, at that moment was something in my brain that clicked. And I was like, oh, wow. Like, I can fucking hang with the big dogs. Like, I can actually go out there and, like, hang with dudes that are fucking good. Like, every competitor, if you're listening to this, you have to have that moment. You have to have a moment where you recognize that you belong to be there. And until you figure that out, you're always going to be a tourist. Until you don't look across the mat and go, oh my God, that's Jeff Glover. Oh my God, that's Nick Rodriguez. Oh my God, that's fucking, Pedro Marino. I'm going to say Gordon Ryan because nobody's on the same level as Gordon Ryan. But like, oh my God, that's so-and-so, right? Until you look across the mat and you go, oh, that's just some fucking dude I got to beat. And you're not in awe of their majesty, you're never going to beat these guys. You have to recognize, I deserve to be here. I'm here to win this fucking thing. I don't give a fuck who that guy's across from me. And when I won the ADCC, or I took third in the trials, is when I really recognized that. So I dedicated myself to competing at that point, and I had a really good run. I did a lot. My claim to fame is I've lost razor thin to some of the biggest names in jiu-jitsu. I lost by fucking, triple overtime submission to Boogie Martinez. I fucking lost by 11 seconds in overtime to Tex Johnson. Like, the list of guys I've almost beat is fucking, really, really long. And I beat a couple really good. I beat Elliot Kelly. I beat Leon Jackson. I beat some really fucking good dudes.
Jeez.
And I had some fun. And I got to do some pro cards. I was on Kasai. I was on Fight to Win. And I built up a considerable amount of clout in the professional jiu-jitsu circuit in Florida. You can really kind of say that I'm an OG, almost someone that kind of put professional jiu-jitsu on the map in Florida. I really believe that. And it might be crazy and saying that I might be a little bit, I don't like talking about myself like that. I really don't. I know. It's like after I just spent 15 minutes talking about myself.
Wait, no. You literally.
I don't like to brag. It's not in me, and I don't like to think those things because I still think I'm just some dude that's a bartender that had some fun, But
yeah,
I've done a lot for jiu-jitsu in Florida.
No, and I think that's cool, and I don't think it's crazy to think that, you're not saying you're the only one. But
no, of course not.
You definitely helped put it on there, and that brings us to Sapateiro 30, that's being held in Florida, August 7th. Your the Masters title match. You call it the old man match. So I kind of want to run back to the beginning. Like, when did you start doing these? We're going to call them super fights at that point, but you just kind of ran through everybody that you fought. So, like, talk about when you decided that was the level you wanted to do. Was it after the ADCC where you said, you know what, I can do this? Or was it just like opportunity came and, we're going to jump right?
Dude, Matt, man, I just kept fucking winning. Like, I would go do something and just be like, oh, well, let's just see how this works. And I'd fucking win. And then, well, fuck, I guess I'm pretty good at this shit, right? So I went to, the first one, I guess, was I was on, God, this is how fucking old I am. I was on one of the first, God, I think it was like Fight to Win 10 or 5 or some shit like that.
Jeez.
It was at the fairgrounds, the Florida State Fairgrounds right outside of Tampa.
That's where they're having bare knuckle this weekend.
Yeah, I forget the guy. I always forget his name. He's going to kill me. Jared, oh God, Jesus! Oh my God, I love you, Jared. I'm sorry, I forget your last name. I'm fried. Jared, blah blah blah, from Gamblers Miami. I hate that. I can't remember his name. I had a
Jared Anderson.
Jared Anderson, absolutely. That was tight. That was good. That was a good pickup. Jared Anderson and nice on a Fight to Win card, and I won that match. Great match. Jared's super fucking stud. He had me in a triangle with about the first 15 seconds on my eyes. I almost went out. I don't know how I fucking got out of that. I was seeing stars and shit, but I ended up winning that. I ended up winning by decision. Long story short, that was the same card that Wagner Rocha kicked AJ Agazam off of the stage. Remember that? When it was the whole, and you can honestly, arguably say that was one of the pivotal moments that really kind of put professional jiu-jitsu on the map, and I was there for that. And then I started
drama does it every time. The slap. What was it, last year or the year before?
All of this is amazing. How little things like that put shit. Oh wow, an explanation point. But then I started doing Sapateiros, like Josh LeDuc. Like, I've known Josh LeDuc since he was a kid. I mean, I've known him since he was like 19, 20 years old, and he was putting on. I was always super impressed at how someone that was that young was able to do as much as he did and put things together. Like, he put together some pretty fucking amazing cards. And he would have me on his cards. Like, I was on cards with Gordon Ryan back when Gordon Ryan was, weighed 160 pounds. You know what I mean? Craig Jones. Nobody knew the fuck Craig Jones is. Some dude from Australia that they flew in. You know what I mean? That Ethan Krallinston, Gary Tonin was on some of these cards. Some of these big name guys, John Kallenstein. Like, these dudes that were the original Danaher dudes before that was even really a thing.
Yeah, before the DDD.
Yeah, then Josh would put me on cards, and I had a couple of matches with Karinga Conway. I had a couple of matches with, you name it, I was on those cards. Josh put me up with Tex. Josh put me up with Boogie. Like, all these matches were all, and it's funny because I always talk to Josh a lot, and as much as I hate to admit it, because he's such a cocky little fuck. I love you, Josh. He knows I love him. A lot of the success that I've been able to live in jiu-jitsu is because Josh took a chance and put me on cards, and I would always have exciting matches. I'd bring people, I'd get him ratings, so he kept giving me matches. So here we are now.
Well, and I want to talk about one of your last matches. Was it 7 overtimes or 8?
Oh God, yeah. That was a while ago. So that's I mean, that's another cool story. If you want
Yeah,
to fucking, so
I told you I did my research.
I know you do. I know you do. That that kid that I went against was this kid named Khalil. So Khalil and me had a prior match at a Copa. God,
Mhm.
Marcelo Concalves. Me and Marcelo Concalves had a match on that card. So
Ooh.
speaking of fucking shitball names, fucking so I had a match against this kid Khalil in the absolute of a Copa, and he was a brown belt and I was a black belt, and he was just a little fucker. Like, he would the leg sweep thing that's isn't really a leg sweep, just literally leg kicking me in my fucking knee. And then he did like the palm smack thing where it's not really a palm touch, it's fucking like, straight up fucking pancration, fucking boss rooting me right in the fucking forehead. Long story short, I literally almost fucking, I was like, look, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, we had to stop it for a second. I was like, don't hit me. Don't you fucking kick, don't kick me in the fucking face again. So we had a battle and I ended up winning by an advantage. And he was a tough kid, but don't fuck with the old man. So I fucking, awesome match, blah, 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 blah. The whole fucking arena, the whole thing was screaming and hollering. I lost to Marcelo by a sweep in the next match. Matt Arroyo ended up in the whole thing, whatever. So we had already had some bad blood. This is really funny. So this is a really fucking funny story, by the way. This is pretty cool. So the promoter was that Substars, who, by the way, remember Substars? That's the one that threw the fucking tournament, didn't pay anybody.
Oh,
It was the
jeez.
biggest
Oh, which
event in
one?
the history of
Which
grappling, right?
one?
Yeah, well, yeah, but this was a big one. It was the biggest event in the history of grappling. It was in Miami. They were paying all these big things, and they're like, at the end of the day, he never made any money. Nobody got paid. But this was the first event he did. It was actually a pretty good event. So he hit me up in my DMs on Instagram, and he was like, "Hey, do you want to fight? You want to fight Khalil? You want to go against the Khalil match against Khalil?" And I was like, "Look, man, like, I don't feel like fucking with this fucking kid. Like, I'm not in the mood. I don't want to deal with this bullshit. Like, I will take the match." And he's with Fight Sports. I was like, "I will take the match, but you better tell him, like, don't fucking turn this into some bullshit. Like, I'm not in the mood. I don't want to be fucking I don't want to turn it into a fucking slugfest, right?"
Yeah.
So we get into the match, and there's a point. I mean, he's a fucking cocksucker. Like, if you watch the match, like, it was on an elevated stage, and it was submission only. So the first rounds of the submission only, every time I would get him in a bad position, he would literally just run off the stage, like literally just fucking run off the stage. So we'd have to start back over again, and then we get into overtime, and the overtimes are set up. There was 7 overtimes, but they were a minute long, and it was the first to score, and you started standing. So about halfway through the first seminar, after I've already told everyone, "Hey, look, man, like, fucking, we have to kind of, like, don't let this guy be a dick." And I'm sure the promoter talked to Cyborg, his coach, like, "Hey, look, dude, like, Kevin says he'll take the match, but he's been starting this shit." But there was a point in the match when we were scrambling for a fucking takedown. And he obviously started running off to the side. And I shit you not, I fucking shoved his ass off the stage right into fucking Cyborg's lap. And fucking Cyborg turns and looks at me and goes, "What the fuck, dude?" Like, "We just talked about how you were gonna fucking blah 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 blah." I'm like, "Oh, sorry, dude." But I went and shook his hand after the whole fucking thing.
Oh my god.
But
That's such a you story. That really is a you
I don't.
story.
There's someone inside of me. Like, I'm a nice person and super happy, but there's a little dude that lives inside of me when, like, it's on, it's go time, and, like, I don't really like that guy. You know what I mean? I don't know if I trust that guy. Sometimes, like, he's a mean, win at all costs, fucking horrible piece of shit sometimes. And that guy only comes out when he's needed. It's like my little Dr. Jekyll. But anyway, we had 7 overtimes, and I always say this: if you watch the video, if that shit would have went 8, I would have died. It was the closest I think I've ever been to death in a long, long time. You could see me
At the end of the 6th, right? You were
like on the ground, like hugging, like holding my heart, and that was not an act. That was me, like, fucking truly concerned for my well-being. But I was not going to lose to that fucking kid. No fucking way, no how. Eventually, they DQ'd him for running off the mat. Finally, they were like, I was like, what the fuck, dude? Finally, after a takedown, he literally just like crawled off the mat, and they fucking put me back in the middle, and they DQ'd his ass. So
wow,
cool. Yeah. Anyway,
I wanted to hear that story because I know that there was some shit behind that one.
And then afterwards, Cyborg shook my hand, told me how awesome it was, and we've always been cool and shit after that. But there was definitely a fucking moment of like, fuck this motherfucker.
Well, you're taking on Bobby Emmonds, from what I could see. Hopefully,
fuck that guy. I love
I'm
Bobby.
sorry.
Bobby's my homeboy.
His nickname's White Trash.
Well, if you knew Bobby, it would fit. If you knew Bobby, you know it wasn't something he kind of like. Oh, no, that's Bobby.
Oh my god! I'm just going through like some of the people he's fought. Like, dude had a pretty.
Oh, he's good. This could very easily end up me getting heel hooked in about 45 seconds.
Oh.
Yeah, and I got like all my students, all my family, all my friends. This is a good. This guy, like, he's an old man, just turned 40, but like this dude's viable. Like he's been on Combat Worlds, he's been on EBI, he was a professional MMA fighter for a while. I think he fought in Bellator or some shit like that. He's been on some pretty high level. He's won some matches on some EBI combat jiu-jitsu cards too. Like he's
the combat jiu-jitsu. So that's pretty.
Yeah, he's good. His
last one was against Jim Eilers, so I mean that's not a bad way. Like
no, I got a little size on him, I think, and I'm gonna hope to be able to utilize that. But he's tough. He's good. He's real good. And I'm and more than anything, this is a match that is we have lots of admiration for each other, and he's been a very good fan of mine. He's one of the guys that always talks about Kevin Gallagher doesn't get enough recognition, and I'm over that. There was a time when that was driven by that. And like, I wouldn't lie and say that it doesn't give me a little twinge in my brain, doesn't motivate me sometimes. But, it's cool to have people like that recognize that like I have done some cool shit in jiu-jitsu, the international scene. And like, we're super stoked about this, but don't get it twisted, man. Like just because we are buddies and friends and we have a lot of admiration for each other, like we're gonna fly. We got too much pride to not go after it. Like no one's gonna go out there and lay down. Like this is gonna be, and we both have very exciting styles. We're gonna bring it. We're gonna come hard. It's gonna be a fun fucking match to watch. Plus the card is insane.
I mean, it really is, and the fact that it's coming. So like, how exciting is that for it to be so close? Being in Tampa versus Miami, Vegas.
So that's another something I'll tell you, Matt. Like, there's something in my mind that just doesn't sit right with the idea that for some reason this Central Florida area does not get the recognition that it deserves for the amazing hotbed of jiu-jitsu that is available here, that is in this place. And I don't know why it bothers me, but it really does. And I really feel like my goal with my academy is to make sure that everyone in this area, the Dan Martinez's, the Tony Ways, the Robert D'Onofrios, Ian Murray's, the Matt Arroyos, the Michael Lugos, Joey Lugos, all those guys out there that don't get the recognition for the amazing jiu-jitsu, quality of jiu-jitsu that they have, start to get it. Like, I want people to look at Tampa in Central Florida and be like, wow, there's some fucking studs there. And they need to be on bigger cards. There need to be some people on WNLs. Aaron Harp's broke the seal on that, but she's having some injury problems. But like, Aaron
Harp is a ridiculous.
Oh, she's a stud. She's
monster.
one of my training partners. I've known her since she was a little girl. I remember when she was a purple belt. Like I've been training with her for years. She calls me coach. Like I'm always amazed and pleased when you got guys like Billy Quarantello, Matt Frivola, Aaron Harp, they call me coach. Like that's the coolest thing in the world with people that have succeeded that far. And when I could think to myself, I have had some kind of an impact on changing those lives. And now with my gym, like I want to put a stamp on this shit. Like I want people to be like, we are going to come to Tampa to find quality grapplers. We're going to put big events on in Tampa, big professional events on in Tampa, because professional grappling is a thing now. I can remember 5-6 years ago telling people that
it would have been a joke.
Yeah. But I kind of saw it happening. I saw it reminded me of coming up in the 80s early 90s, right? Late 80s, early 90s, when the X Games were starting
Oh,
to kind of like, but
Dave Mira,
jiu-jitsu,
baby. Dave
yeah,
Mira.
yeah, it might not be the same, but it kind of has that same, like, cool people kind of dig it. You know what I mean? There's cool dudes. The fucking outfits are fucking cool. Everybody wears their little jiu-jitsu fucking gis and rash guards and shit, you know? Professional jiu-jitsu kind of reminded me of that. Now I'm starting to really think it's happening. We've got, fucking reality TV shows, all kind of shit going on now.
Yeah. And it's funny. I'm just going to bring this up because it was scrolling through Facebook, Instagram, seeing Batista and MVP over,
Yeah.
the pictures of Matt Arroyo. And I'm like, the first thing I saw was Batista's only a purple belt. I was like, I could take him.
Matt said he's a fucking stud.
Oh, yeah.
Matt said even more than just being, a massive human being, he's a stud. I did some boxing private lessons with Batista, but I never got to do jiu-jitsu with him.
Oh,
And
that would be fun.
I was completely surprised that he came and actually took a class. Like, I thought he would just do private lessons. Matt had mentioned to me he was finally got Batista to come and take some lessons. He came into class and he brought, I don't know who MVP is. He's another wrestler guy.
So he's in wrestling. Yeah, I was gonna say he's in wrestling, but he's not usually a wrestler. He's more of like a handler. But it was so funny because when I saw the guy come up, I'm like, okay, who is this? And I started looking, and I'm like, this guy's a brown belt.
He's a brown belt, yeah.
And he's winning tournaments. Like,
he's a big dude.
Yeah,
He's
joke. And
probably fuck up half those fucking guys, those fucking wrestlers just walking out to the fucking.
He's sitting there wrestling, going, man, I wish I could heel hook right now.
Yeah.
But it was cool to see that because, like you said, the notoriety, and we kind of lost a little bit of it. When RFC was really the only professional one putting things in Tampa and the Tampa Bay area for the longest time. XFC was around. The UFC would come, and I feel like they would give like half-ass cards. They were just like, yeah, we're not going to put a title fight. We're not going to put anything big in Tampa.
Yeah.
And then when we say, well, Tampa didn't really do that well, I'm like, well, that's not really fair. And keep in mind that Jacksonville saved their asses during the pandemic.
Yeah, the pandemic.
When they were doing everything in ViStar. I'm starting to see that change too, where Florida is that like, hey, look, this isn't just, it's not just North Florida, South Florida anymore.
Right.
Look at the old man. We're putting him to sleep
already.
No,
that was very rude of me. I apologize. I'm good to go. We can keep.
No, you gave me an opening to bring in the old man. Like I can't let that go. Everybody's watching like, what the hell, man? But people need to realize there is more than just North and South Florida. There is a Central Florida, from coast to coast, whether it's, you've got yourself, you've got my professor, Professor Geary, you've got Professor Ross Kellen, you've got all these people spread out across the middle of Florida. And jiu-jitsu, and like you said, the Dan Martinez, and I'll never forget, I saw Dan Martinez's, I think it was his first MMA fight.
Yeah, he was a little skinny fucker.
And I have the coolest picture of him doing a triangle that he didn't finish. And he's still mad about that to this day.
Like a jumping triangle, flying triangle, or something like that.
And he literally got it, and he's pulling. And I remember being in that card. It was the first ever MMA fight I saw live. And I remember this dude getting hit. And I watched blood spray across the table in front of me, all over my stuff. And I was like, that was awesome.
Wasn't that at that shit fucking...
Oh gosh!
I mean, one of the shit venues. Wasn't that at that shit venue out in Brandon? Like, you had to drive through the fucking, like, some weird fucking forest and shit. It was at some weird country club.
That one was. I think that one was at a Tampa hotel.
Oh, all right, one of them. Yeah.
I just remember Michael Cora fought on that card.
Oh, Mike Cora too. Yeah, I got.
And Michael Cora, like, he got kicked in the nuts, and it was bad.
I was probably one of his corners in that fight.
And he got up. And he took his time, but when he got back up, he murdered that dude. He was a tough kid. And I was like, there's three things that happen when you get kicked in the nuts. You're down and out. You're kind of wincy every time they throw a kick, or you just come back with a fucking vengeance.
Yeah.
And you literally destroy people.
Nothing pisses you off more than getting kicked in the nuts. That's just it's hard to come back from that. Yeah.
No, I've been It's so funny when people talk about, oh, I started jujitsu at 30, and I'm like, man, that was late. And then I was like, I realized I was like, I really started at 30. Like I
Yeah.
didn't commit until 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And I was like, and even now, I don't feel like I'm committing. And other people will say I'm not committing.
You're a purple belt. You're committed enough.
I'm blue. I'm blue.
Yeah.
Don't call me.
I thought you were purple. I thought you were close to your purple. I thought you had your purple belt.
No, but to me, it's a journey, and I think people get too. I kind of want to get your
Sure.
insight on this because I think people get too focused on what everybody else is doing. They get too focused on, oh, that guy. Well, I beat him last week. Why is he a higher belt? Like, why is that going? Like, what advice do you have to people who are too focused on everybody else when they realize that even though jujitsu is an individual journey, it's also a team atmosphere and everybody's helping you get to where you are. So, what would you say to those people who are too focused on, someone else's journey?
So,
Besides, stop.
jiu-jitsu is a journey for a reason because you have several moments of self-discovery upon the way. And when I talk about what I mean by self-discovery, is there an echo? Am I losing this shit for someone? No.
No.
When I talk
guys,
about,
you just saw the movie Magic. The mic is being held.
when I talk about the journey that we go on, right? When you talk about the journey of being a jiu-jitsu, certain stops along the way, you have that moment where you start to like have awakenings. You don't really get that feeling of fuck, man, this thing's echoing. It's making me fucking crazy. I'm sorry, dude.
Hey, what do I say every episode? It's not a Quiggin Out podcast without some sort of technical difficulty. See, we're just going to use this time to talk about sponsors. So, just going to go for La Barba Cubana for the amazing beard care, Fat Boy Jiu-Jitsu for making some amazing stuff. We've got at Tim Makes Knives on Instagram, an amazing friend of mine who's welding his own knives. Go check him out. You guys can order custom stuff. And if you're ever out in Orlando, you've got Berto's Bake Shop. So,
sorry,
check him out.
Berto's Bake Shop.
Berto's Bake
Shop. Yeah. So quickly, I'll get back on it. As you go through your journey, you get to points where you have little moments of awakening, right? At a certain point of that awakening, you have different ideas. Like when you hit your kind of blue belt, there's nothing wrong with thinking about what the other guy does.
Yeah.
That's what motivates you.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
That's also the reason why a lot of blue belts quit. It's a sad part of the process. It's because when you're a white belt, like everything is about improvement. You're on the way up. There's no fucking back steps because every day you get better. Because your life just sucks so bad that every day is a point up. Now, when you hit your blue belt, it's the first time you start to hit plateaus. Because what happens? Other guys are getting better too, right?
Yeah.
So like all of a sudden, like Joey that you used to submit, maybe you took a couple weeks off or a month off or so, 2 months off because whatever the fuck happened in your life, you hurt yourself, you had to take a job, whatever. Well, Joey got better while you were fucking gone. So now Joey's beating you and you're pissed off because you think Joey's better than you and fuck jiu-jitsu. I can't do this anymore because, oh my God, I'm just not going to get better. It's not for me. Right. Well, you have to push past that. So when we talk about concerning yourself with other people, like there's a certain point right around mid purple belt, around your third stripe in your purple belt, fourth stripe in your purple belt, when you're getting close to your brown belt, when you start to have the realization that jiu-jitsu isn't really about winning or losing, and it really isn't. And it's such a fucking cliche, but it's so fucking true. Like you have to get to a point to where you recognize, I still want to submit people and I still want to win, but it's not that competitive drive of I have to beat Joey isn't really as prevalent. And you just kind of get to the point where you just love the art. You love learning. You love getting better. You love pushing yourself past that threshold and experiencing new things. And in order to kind of go under that brown belt, you have to get past that ego-driven aspect of the art, because lots of purple belts are fucking, they think they're fucking god amongst men, and like, they
Yep.
kind of are. They're pretty fucking good. Purple belts, you know. No, but I mean, when you're a purple belt, you're pretty fucking good at jiu-jitsu. Like a purple belt will catch me. A blue
Yeah.
belt will catch me. But a good purple belt will catch me if I'm not going fucking hard. Not a whole lot of you fuckers, but there's a couple out there that'll fucking catch me. You know what I mean? Like if I'm not paying attention and I'm fucking off, or I'm trying some shit, like a purple belt will fucking catch me.
Mhm.
Right? But you're never going to get past that level until you realize there's more than the art to just submitting people and winning and brutalizing blue belts and fucking puffing your chest out and walking around like you're a badass. You have to really understand. Yeah, you have to understand that jiu-jitsu is an art. And in order to learn an art, you have to appreciate the beauty of what it is. Like one of my favorite analogies, and I'll leave it on this. I won't talk anymore. Right. One of my favorite analogies is, when you talk about the levels of jiu-jitsu and like literary correspondence. I wrote a good article about it and I put this in there, right? So when you talk about a white belt, like what's a white? A white belt's just fucking learning letters. Like learning what the letters are. Like A, B, C. Like I'm just trying to figure out what each of the fucking techniques of jiu-jitsu, how they fucking function, right?
Mhm.
Now, when you get your blue belt, you kind of start to take those letters and you turn them into words, right? And those words are now like, oh, okay, the letters are like, oh, like you're like, okay, like ball, fucking arm bar. Like you understand them a little more like fucking literary kind of terminology, right? Then you start to get to purple belt, and purple belt is when you really focus on combining those words into sentences and you're kind of piecing things together. Right?
Uma plata.
Right, exactly. Or like, well, the arm bar led to, the triangle, or the
Mhm.
triangle led to the arm. The things kind of pieced together. Well, when you get to brown belt, now you're thinking about it on a big picture and you're telling a story, and like you can start with sentences and they all piece together and you're kind of realizing it's more important than just each individual piece. There's a whole kind of structure to what is happening from start to finish of each roll. I'm setting things up. I'm making my opponent do different things. So the beginning of the story is like the setup. Then you have the kind of like the body of the paragraph. At the end, you have a conclusion, right? Well, when you get to black belt, you start to create poetry, right? And there's beauty to the words that start to flow. And you start to really have fun with setting up decoys, and an entire concept is not just spoken. There's a beauty and a joy that only comes from an appreciation of what that art really truly is. And you have to struggle through each one of those pieces to really get to the beauty. There is no pain, or there's no joy without pain, right? There is no love without suffering. And that's one of the hardest truisms in life. You can't really appreciate the totality of how much something good is until you know its absence, right? Until you realize how horrible it
Absolutely.
is, how horrible the other side is, and vice versa. Like you can live that straight line, but you're never really going to have it in completeness until you understand how horrible. You never really feel complete joy until you understand how horrible sorrow is.
Damn. So anybody who listens to this and doesn't watch it, I hope you've decided at some point to watch this, because the hand movements alone during that literally made all of that. Because I was sitting here mesmerized going, uh-huh.
It's a black belt trick. You like that shit?
Well, Kevin, dude, I'm super excited for you to have this opportunity coming in a couple weeks. Really, it was a pleasure talking to you. We'll definitely have to dive in next time on the writing side of it, because you and I share that as well. And I think it's really cool to see a lot more jujitsu people. And I know Roxanne Modafferi's been doing it. And I'm throwing her name out there because she went from fighting to retiring to now writing these articles. And you're getting a different perspective on these fighters who people are still under the assumption that, fighters are barbarians and they don't know how to use a pen and they don't know how to use a computer and they don't know how to write anything that, was worth reading. Whereas, you've got these guys like yourself with 12 years behind you, and most of those years, you know, being under somebody and now being on your own, you've got a different perspective than most people are going to see. And I think it's really fun to kind of see that journey. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for having me on, bro. I really enjoy talking about jiu-jitsu. I enjoy talking
I
about
couldn't tell.
fighting.
I don't think anybody watching could tell you like jiu-jitsu at all.
It's my passion, baby. My goal in life is to help people to see jiu-jitsu the same way I do. I always say this in life, like I really hope that everyone in the world finds something they love as much as I love jiu-jitsu, because it's a beautiful thing.
And there could be no better way to end it than that. So on behalf of myself, Combat Press, guys, go check out the quigginoutpodcast.com. Get cool shirts like the one I'm wearing. Get cool cups like the one I'm drinking out of. Shameless self-promotion, because that's what we do. You're wearing a No Judges t-shirt, so I don't want No Judges Needed t-shirt, so I don't want to hear it. But for anybody who's listening and who is local to the Tampa Bay area, tell everybody where they can come find you and what they can expect when they come into your classes.
Oh, well, I mean, I'm in the Trinity area, Trinity, Florida area, just north of Tampa, about half hour north of Tampa, Newport Richie kind of area. You know, I always say you come to my class and you come to my gym and understand that, like, we are going to learn jiu-jitsu, you're going to learn self-defense, you're going to learn to protect yourself, right? I put community almost above everything else. I feel like it's a family, what we do here. We all struggle, we all toil together, but at the end of the day, we're all a team, we're all a family, and like I don't care about anything else more than that. Like I bring a community, a family, a presence into the Trinity community, and anyone is welcome to come check me out for that. So
Perfect. Well, again, thank you so much for taking the time. Hope we didn't keep you up past your bedtime. That's the last old man joke I can make, because I know the next time I see you, you're gonna whoop my ass for it. So thank you again, and have a great night, man.
You too, homie. Thanks, buddy.
Hey guys, don't forget to hit the subscribe, little bell, keep you up to date on all things Quiggin Out. Thanks again.